give a hearty welcome to Mr. Matt Barrie from Freelancer. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you. So no pressure or anything. Thank you for the setup. Look, I'm very pleased to be here. Very pleased. This is my first time actually meeting people from the community and all the domainers. I've had a fantastic time. I'm also very pleased to be a supporter of NamesCon and will continue to do so. So I thought I'd give you a little bit of a presentation, giving you a little bit of most of you probably know of Escrow.com and kind of what we do, but I thought I'd kind of show you a few little insights about things that we've learned over the years in terms of what's happening in the domain industry. Also talk a little bit about Freelancer and kind of why we bought the business and how Freelancer can actually help you make more money with your domain portfolio or what you're doing with your business and so forth. So without further ado, I'll just kind of get going. So Escrow, basically we're the world's #1 place for secure online payments. By that I mean truly secure. We've processed over $2.7 billion worth of transaction volume to date. This is a business that's been around since 1999. It was actually started by Fidelity many years ago. You can use Escrow to secure a whole bunch of different transaction types, not just domain names or websites and so forth, but people are buying and selling cars, airplanes, jewelry, collectibles, artwork, services agreements, you name it, it's probably been sold through Escrow.com. So it's a pretty amazing solution for actually finding a way to transact securely on the internet. The key thing here is we are audited, we're licensed, we're bonded and regulated right across the US. And we're really the only guys that they're actually regulated to the extent we are. And so as a result of that, the really important thing is that not only do we have a very robust process in terms of how we do these transactions, but there are no chargebacks. So this is a payment service where if you want to buy something or you want to sell something, you have absolute surety over that transaction is going to go through. It's a very simple to use website. In fact, there's a dummies guide online. It's a simple 5-step process. The buyer and seller agree to kind of what they want to do. The buyer then pays Escrow.com. There's an inspection period, which you can define to be anywhere from 1 day to whatever days to inspect the goods. And then once the buyer says okay, everything's great, then we'll actually close out the transaction. And the reason why it's highly needed and will have an ever-increasing need in the future is if you have anything of value that you want to sell, you wouldn't actually sell using PayPal. And the reason why is there's chargebacks, there's reversals, there's been all sorts of horror stories. Even people were talking about during the period of this conference where the people have sold things like domains using PayPal and then had reversals, and it's been very hard to claw back the domain and so forth, all the money. In fact, eBay doesn't think so either, which was kind of interesting because eBay was the owner of PayPal, and if you go to the automotive section of the eBay website, it says important, do not use PayPal.com, only use Escrow.com. So that's a pretty phenomenal endorsement from eBay when they have their own payments business. Just some statistics about us. We're almost 1 million registered users on the site. It's been growing very strongly since 1999. In financial year 15, which was the calendar year, just closing, we had $430 million in transaction volume. So it's a huge amount of volume goes through our business. As you can see in FY14, there was a big jump, which I'll talk about in a second. Now I have a video which we'll be showing. It will show you what's actually happening on our site, and we've kind of modelled this over. We've taken the data and we've actually made a map of the world. So the video will come up in a second, but when it comes up, you'll see a series of white dots. Those white dots are where our users are all around the world. You'll see some pink lines that will turn to blue lines. The pink are where the buyers are, and the blue lines are where the sellers are. So you'll see this in a second as play gets hit. So this is starting back in 2000. You can see here that so the pink is where the buyers are, and the blue is where the sellers are. There's a big domestic market in the US, obviously, so you can see the lines kind of going around the US. But you can also see sellers all around the world. A lot of pink lines are people buying from Australia, and the sellers from the US. You can see here that through 2008, 2009, 2010, there's a lot more pink coming out of China, and as Chinese buyers kind of come in, and just like they're buying real property all around the world, they're buying virtual property in the form of websites and domains and so on. You can see here we've got fairly strong growth. You can also see the business is very much global in nature, and that brings us up today. So that's kind of a neat little video that we put together, kind of explain to show kind of how the business is very much a global business. It's a very strong demographic of the user base. About 60% of our users come from the US, and then the UK, Canada, Australia, Germany, and so forth. We secure transactions right up from the hundreds of dollars through to the $10 million plus. The biggest domain name transaction that happened in 2015 went through us. It was well reported in the media. I won't mention the name, but you can put through very, very large transactions. In fact, in 2014, I bought a whole business for many millions of dollars called Warrior Forum, which is the biggest internet marketing forum in the world, and did that through Escrow.com. You can also use it for things like if you want to import or export a shipping container and bring it in from China. You don't have to go through a bank and get letters of credit and so forth. It makes it very simple. Industrial equipment, heavy machinery. This particular Andy Warhol sold through Escrow.com. Service contracts. If you go holiday in Spain and you want to get a holiday rental, people are using it to escrow the funds to ensure that the property actually is the quality they thought it was when they looked at the photos. And in fact, it's also the place where the internet's bought and sold. So whether it's Twitter, Instagram, SpaceX, Uber, etc., that's where the domain names are all purchased through Escrow.com. Now, some interesting statistics. So this is high-level average price of domain names transacted through Escrow.com over the last 15 years. And the really amazing thing about this is the 5-year CAGR, so the compound annual growth rate of the average value of a domain name, is actually equivalent to the 10-year CAGR. Like, it's been a pretty smooth rise in the appreciation of the price of domain names. In fact, over the last 10 years, the average has been about 7.3% per year growth in the value of the average domain name transaction. So this is this is actually wonderful endorsement for the domain industry, because I don't know if you look at the stock market today, but all around the world, asset prices are crashing, commodities prices are crashing, etc. Domains look like a pretty good investment to kind of be part of your portfolio. If you look at shorter domains, I think you guys probably very much know that shorter domains are worth a lot more than longer domains. 4-letter domains that transacted through the site grew by an average of 9.3% per annum over the last 10 years, so they've grown even faster. And of course, a lot of the reports in the media have been that the reason why the 4-letter domains are increasing in value so rapidly is because of the rise of China, and we have seen that firsthand. In fact, if you look at the red line, that's the growth in transaction volume through Escrow.com from China in the domain name industry. Right? You can pretty much see there around 2011 or 12, there's an exponential rise in volume of domain name transactions. These are primarily buyers from China buying domain names. Now, the quickest way to actually increase the value of your domain name portfolio is actually to start developing your domains. And in fact, we've got some data, unfortunately, that only goes back for 5 years for websites, domains with content and websites on them. But in that 5 years of data that we have, that if you sell a domain with content on it through Escrow.com, the average sale price is actually 63% higher than actually selling domains by themselves. So, and in fact, in 2015, it was an 89% difference. So this leads to a little bit of a discussion I want to talk to you about kind of why Freelancer bought Escrow, amongst other things. The easiest way to really get a website developed cheaply and quickly and efficiently with very high quality is to use our marketplace of 17 million freelancers from around the world. And so, we actually only acquired the business in November of 2015, so it's only been 10 weeks since we've owned Escrow.com. But I'll talk to you just briefly about what Freelancer does and then kind of how the synergies sort of fit in. I mean, Freelancer, we literally are the largest crowdsourcing and outsourcing marketplace globally. We have 17 million users around the world, and the total value of jobs posted on the site to date is around $2.9 billion US, and that marries very nicely with Escrow's total transaction volume of about $2.7 billion. Now, Freelancer really changes the dynamics in the way, the global dynamics for the marketplace for people. In fact, what we do in our marketplace, it's really an eBay for jobs. So people can, any sort of job you can possibly think of, design a website, design a logo, develop a product, you can get it done on the site. We have about 900 different categories of work, everything from astrophysics, aerospace engineering, genetic engineering, biotechnology, manufacturing, you name it. We have 2 participants in our marketplace. So the people who post jobs are really small businesses, entrepreneurs, startups, and so forth that want to turn that sort of spark of an idea into reality. And freelancers on the site are also entrepreneurs, and they're mainly from the developing world and emerging markets who basically are starting service organisations to help people get things done. We have a very, very strong record of growth. We've got over 8 million projects have been posted on the site to date, so very, very high volumes of products. And that, in terms of the supply, so this is people doing the work, there is nowhere else in the world that's more liquid. 60% of the jobs posted on our site get a bid within 60 seconds. right? So if you want a website project done or something done, you post the job within 60 seconds, someone is there saying, hey, I'll do the job, here's a price, let's talk, right? And there's about 2.5 million bids per month have gone through the site for projects, and there's about 300,000 contest entries. And I won't go through a video for Freelancer, but we've done the same sort of thing with Freelancer.com, showing where the work is being performed and so forth. It actually has exploded, so we probably need a new graphing algorithm. But we're very much a global business. We have 34 different languages supported on the site. We have 20 different currencies. And this is the sorts of work that people get done. I'll show you some examples. So this is a project, a typical project. This is do a 3D rendering of a villa from a floor plan for me. This job cost $100, and on the right-hand side is the actual end work, a sample of the end work that was done on the site. So this is a pretty simple project. But you might want a website developed. So this is a website for a startup conference. This cost 350 euros. This conference website was actually full motion video in the background, so it's like the Uber site. So there's actually a showreel playing in that background image. So it's pretty phenomenal. So 350 euros, you can get a site developed. If you wanted to do this from a local web developer in the United States, this would cost you many, many thousands of dollars. And so typically on Freelancer, you can get jobs done for about 1/10 the price. This is CAD rendering. There's plenty of factories in places like China and so forth that bid on the site that will bid very, very low prices for design work, because they'll say if you want 5,000 units by next month, here's a quote freight on board from Shanghai to San Francisco. In this case, this is 55 Canadian dollars for the 3D rendering of a paper towel holder. But there's many different freelancers. There are actually factories that will also build it for you very cheaply. Now, something that, which might be of interest to a number of people who've got domains. I mean, if you've just bought a domain name and you don't know what to do with it, you might want to just drop a logo on it and make it look like it's being developed, or there's a business that's about to be formed on that site. You can get a logo done using crowdsourcing on that site. So the way crowdsourcing works on the platform is you put up a prize, and then people will compete for that prize. And it's very interactive and very visual. You can say, I like this, I don't like this, change the colors, change the font, put a tree in it, whatever you want to do. And here's an example. This was a $129 US prize. There were 81 different designs submitted, and you can see the quality of the end results. More sophisticated than that, this is the 3D modeling of an image. I don't know if you know this, but the IKEA catalogue, 75% of the images in the IKEA catalogue are actually computer rendered. They're not photos. And they do that because when the catalogue goes to different markets around the world, they want to change the coffee table magazines to be local magazines, but they have to redo the shoot for every single country they sell in. So this is a contest for $90 US for the 3D rendering of a scene for a wardrobe manufacturer. You can see the quality of the rendering is absolutely phenomenal, and that's $90. And there were 69 different entries that you could choose from, and it's winner takes all, so the winner is the person who gets paid. Another example, designed for me a house. This is $215. They wanted a contemporary style home. There were 51 different designs submitted, which consisted of a floor plan as well as a 3D rendering, and that was sort of the winning entry. But it can be product designs I talked about before. This is 500 euros, the industrial design of a vinyl cutter, and this is the sort of quality that you get for 500 euros. So a bunch of people use this. Something really exciting that's happened is NASA started using us, and believe it or not, it's kind of scary what's going on, but on the International Space Station, there's actually a robotic astronaut called the Robonaut R2. It's been there since 2011. And that R2 has just been upgraded to have legs to allow it to walk outside the space station and do missions, because it's actually not very safe for astronauts to go outside the space station, despite what you see in the movies. So they needed to train the image recognition system of this robotic astronaut to be able to do this. And you can imagine NASA, the old NASA, being quite a bureaucratic sort of organisation, very expensive to get things done. They've turned to crowdsourcing to now build the 3D models to train the image recognition system. And for this particular flashlight, that's not a photo, that's a 3D render, computer generated, that costs $50 for NASA. They did handrails. This is the quality of a handrail, for example. The handrail is what the robot grasps onto when it climbs outside the space station, and that's the robot itself with the new legs that's being fitted, and it's about to go outside the space station. This is actually a computer-generated image of what it's about to do. So we trained all the image recognition system for NASA. We also did the smartwatch that the astronauts use on the International Space Station. So this is the app interface design. It cost $1,500. They had 237 different entries to do the smartwatch app that tells them when to eat and when to do exercise and also saw the mission data. And the really exciting thing, which is actually going to be announced next week, is they've just announced that, a partner with us, we're going to develop a robotic arm for the International Space Station on a replacement robot for the Sphere's flying robot. So what they're going to do is they're going to do dozens and dozens of contests all over 2016 starting with a decomposition of the systems architecture of the robotic arm, which is going to define all the subsystems that need to get built, and they're going to do contests every single month on Freelancer, building the little pieces, the servo motors and the actuators and the, and so forth. So that's really, really, really exciting. So if NASA can use this, anyone can use this. Now, as I mentioned, it's only been 10 weeks since we've owned Escrow.com, but it's been a very, very busy 10 weeks, and we've got very, very big plans for the business. First thing we did was increased support times to go to 11 o'clock on California time, but we're actually going to move this to 24/7 by 365 around the clock. Now, at Freelancer, we have 34 languages on our site. We do about 25 or so of them in terms of support. So we actually have a plan to do that as well. We've started with Chinese language support. So the site currently, there's a new version of the site which is also in Chinese, but the support emails and so forth are now going out in Chinese. And we actually have a Chinese support team now. So if you want to speak to them, you can. But we'll be adding, as I mentioned, about 20 languages over time to Escrow's business. In addition, we're going to do currency support. At the moment, we support US dollars and euros. Freelancer.com has 20 different currencies. We're going to support as many of those currencies as we can. We have a new version of the website that's up at beta.escrow.com. Here's a sneak peek at it. You can actually go to beta.escrow.com today and you can play around with it. It's actually a responsive website, so it actually works on mobile, which is useful if you're at a domain name conference, for example. You want to play your phone to do a transaction. It's also in Chinese. Looks great in Chinese. That's the mobile version of the site, and so on. Now, just a few little things, just in terms of how you can make money with Escrow, and there's a lot of things we have in plan. This is really just a few little starting points. The first thing is we support a transaction type known as a domain name holding transaction, and this is basically lease to buy. So if you've got a set portfolio of domain names and someone wants to buy one of the domain names and doesn't have enough money to be able to pay you up front for the whole thing in full, what you can do is you can set up this transaction. They can pay you regular monthly payments. If they default, you get your domain name back, right? But it's a way in which you can get more liquidity from your domain portfolios. That's a pretty interesting thing. We've had some great feedback about that. We're considering offering just pure leasing as well. And I welcome any feedback you have about whether that be of interest. But we're also building out the API in a really robust manner. So this is a way that you can actually integrate into your own website or your own emails or your own landing pages the Escrow.com functionality. And we've got a whole, the great thing about Freelancer is we have 470 staff, of which 200 are engineers, software developers. So we have a big development team that's going to be really working on the product in a pretty heavy way. So we've got an API which is live now, but we're also building out with functionalities and feature sets. So this is a really interesting way in which you can kind of use Escrow for your business. And here's some examples. So RapNet, which is actually a diamond wholesaler, actually has integrated the full Escrow.com functionality into their website. So you can actually click through and buy and sell diamonds on RapNet using the API. And you can see a few screenshots how it's been integrated. You could also put together landing pages. So if you've got a portfolio, and you've got of park domains with a bunch of links and so forth, you could also put a buy it now button on there. And you could sell it. And a whole bunch of people are already doing this. Here's examples of, this is highly customizable. It's really up to the CSS on how this looks. But here's an example of, NewYorkRenting.com. They've made it look like there's a business there. Poser, StarTalent.com, Gozer, and so forth. So there's a whole bunch of ways people have done those landing pages. Now, you can get them done really, really cheaply on Freelancer. So this page costs under $200 to get developed for a Mexican restaurant. This cost $194 as a landing page, and this costs $165. And I've seen landing pages go through for as cheap as $50. It all depends on which designer you like and what they're bidding and so forth. So there's some ways there which you can really use both Escrow and use Freelancer to actually build the value of your domain business. We've got a special offer also for NamesCon. If you include the phrase Happy NamesCon in your transaction description, we'll give you a free t-shirt. It says Bitcoin or so 2010. And we also have a recruiter service. And if you're new to using Freelancer, we've got this service where our staff will help you find the best possible freelancer for your job, and we'll guarantee the placement. And we're offering that free for anyone here at NamesCon to really build out the value in their domain portfolio. So just talk to us at booth number 1, which is just in that corner over there. The key thing here is that we're really looking for feedback from all of you in how we can improve the service. We're going to have a pretty aggressive timetable in terms of shipping new features on the site. Freelancer ships about 20 code changes or more per day. So if you're a long-time user of Freelancer, there's just so much functionality that's been built in over time, and that's really led to a tremendous growth. We think that Escrow can be a phenomenal business. I think fundamentally at its core, if you're a seller of anything of value, right, and that may be a car, a domain, a website, whatever it may be, a business, right, if the product was identical with PayPal, and it's not, we've got some way to go, but we've got a big team now that's working on this, I think the seller would always choose Escrow.com because you want surety in payment, right? And we have no chargebacks. Well, PayPal has chargebacks. And also, at 89 bips for a transaction fee, it's significantly cheaper than the PayPal transaction. So I think long-term there's tremendous potential with this business. But I'm really excited to be here at NamesCon. I'm very excited to meet all of you guys, and I hope there's been some interesting talk for you. So thank you.
Matt Barrie, thank you so much for joining us here at NamesCon.